Tell them about the time we faced them.
All right. Well, as I remember.
At Avenger headquarters.
Because united, the Avengers are strong.
Welcome to the Marvel Evolution Show with myself, Andy Stead.
And I'm Jarian Gibson.
And I'm Alex Stroud.
Good to see you guys. Good to see you. Jarian, I thought you had a little time lapse there. You forgot what you were.
PBA got him.
TVA got him, yeah. And it looks like they're coming back as well. With something that was spotted this week. We'll chat about that in a moment. Good to see you guys. How's things? How are you, Alex? All right?
Yeah, doing okay.
Excellent. Jarian, how are you?
Doing good.
I only just saw you yesterday.
Yeah.
we had our quiz last night, our end game quiz. 3 hours of end game. We was all end gamed out by the end of it. It went tremendously well. I think it was another good quiz. We'll endeavour to do more of those.
Who was the winner?
That was Tim's team won again. He keeps getting the wins. That boy.
He's just racking them up like the Infinity Stone.
He is. But no, it was a fun quiz, and some new people on there as well. So we had Jamie and Zydrunas on there, which were and Ryan as well. So new people on there. We had people coming back. So Molly came back for the first time in a while, and then we had our sort of stalwarts of Danielle and Adam and the rest of them. So it was a good, interesting quiz, and I had fun. A few siders as well, so it's always good. We're going to talk about She-Hulk episode 5 tonight and the news of the week. Just one more thing to do before we get stuck into everything, though, is to thank Eric Rotter, who managed to get us a whole bunch of new members this week. So thank you, Eric, from us. That's quite funny. Do you clap just as Jarian was doing it?
I knew it was coming. I just knew it was coming.
I was like, wow, he's got a good clap. But no, so Eric invited a lot of his friends to join the group, and it just goes to show actually that there's still reach out there, from the people that we've got on the group. So that's all good. If you're listening live tonight, give us a comment, say hello. Let us know you're there, and of course, as always, we will give you a shout out as we go. We're going to go through some news first, Jarian. What have we got? Have we got anything interesting this week?
Yeah, we have a lot of stuff this week. It was kind of a busy news week. So a lot of stuff out there. So let's get going. First off, let's talk about some Loki stuff. So Giancarlo Esposito on Loki casting. So there's been some chatter about that he was approached for a role in Loki. He addressed that. He said, the truth of the story is this. About 4 years ago, I met with Luis D'Esposito, who was in the television unit of Marvel. And they had come to me to possibly play Loki on the television side. And so I did not want to do that part, and there are reasons for it. I think I wasn't the one who was chosen, would be the honest truth. But I would have maybe liked to do it. And then I thought when I wasn't selected for that, that'd be great if I could be in a Marvel movie, not just a television show, because I like films a lot. I love television. Obviously, I had a great run in television world. Doing last year was 4 shows at one time, and the year before 5 shows. So I don't think he was the main Loki. He might have been one of the Loki variants, like the classic Loki, possibly. I wonder if they approached him for that. I saw some people speculating it was for Kang, but no, that it was not for Kang. It was most definitely for a Loki variant.
Yeah. Sorry, Alex, go on, because your point.
I was just gonna say he seems like kind of way too old to be Kang. I feel like like if you want somebody to play like a Kang, He Who Remains type, like they need to be somebody that can be that role for a long period of time, and he's kind of older. I feel like.
And especially somebody that I think can go either way age-wise as well. So like Jonathan Majors, you probably could get away with him being in his sort of late 20s maybe if the right sort of costume and his delivery was correct. But on the other end, you could probably get away with him being in his late 50s as well if the costume and his delivery was
Mhm.
that way inclined, where obviously Giancarlo, he's that end of the sort of age spectrum. That's a nice way of saying it. He's a bit older, isn't
Yeah.
so he couldn't really go the other way. But I was going to say, I remember watching him in a program years ago. I think it was called Revolution, or I'm not. It might have been called that, and it was one where all the power gets cut off. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I've
he
seen
was
part of it.
he was like the bad guy in that, and ever since I saw him then, I thought, this sounds stupid because he's obviously been on the scene for a long time, but I'd never seen him up until then. And I just thought, well, this guy's going places. This guy's got a future ahead of him. Has that commanding voice and that presence, and he was really cool as that kind of authoritarian bad guy. It was great. So
He was fantastic in Breaking Bad as Gus.
right.
Like, he was so great as that character.
I just realized too, I was watching Do the Right Thing again the other day. He's actually in that movie. He's like one of the main antagonists in that movie when they get into the fight and burn the pizzeria down. I did not realize that was him until just recently.
Wow.
That happens quite often, though, don't it?
Yeah.
You watch now these people come into the light now because they've got a new role or whatever it is, and then you go, oh, hold on, he was in that thing. I didn't even recognize him in that thing because he was just, like you say, he was in the background or something.
And then he also addressed fan casting as Professor X, that he decided to approach Marvel. He said, I love all of this happens. The fans come to me with the line when I'm in line, a lot of Comic-Cons, and started with Doctor Doom maybe over a year ago. And then the fans came and said that I should do Freeze. Then it was Magneto. And these are the fans suggesting to me that might be appropriate for me to do. And then last year, people are coming out saying it's Professor X. And they asked me, would you like to do it? I said, I'd love to be in the Marvel Universe. And so all that got translated with fan casting started to blow up that they'd like to see me play Professor X. It got so huge, I finally had to have my people call Marvel and explain that, that this is a fan want and we'd love to work with you. And Marvel Studios isn't quite ready to get into that conversation, but when they are, I am here.
Okay. That's interesting. That's sort of fact, isn't it? Because that's directly from the horse's mouth saying that he has had conversations, but they're not ready to have that conversation. So that's interesting.
And honestly, I could see him playing Professor X, especially if they kind of get into the little bit darker, more manipulative side of Professor X and not what we've seen with Patrick Stewart. He could completely pull that off. Look what he's done as Edgar in The Boys, working for Vought Industries. Look at that. Look at some of his other roles, like in Better Call Saul and that kind of stuff. He definitely can play that role.
Yeah, for sure. He played because obviously he played Moff Gideon, didn't he? And
Yep.
Mandalorian as well, and he had that kind of sinister role there as well. So yeah, for sure.
Quantumania, I can't talk today. There's been some more news about that, especially what Kang says to Scott Lang in the footage that was shown at D23. He says, I'm just a man who's lost a lot of time, like you, but we can help each other with that. Someone stole something from me, and you're the only one who can steal it back, so do we have a deal? So again, like when we talked about the D23 recap, it looks like Scott will be pulling another heist, but this time in the quantum realm. And it's something that Kang really needs, and I wonder if it's something tied to his telekinesis or some kind of piece of his uniform to give him his powers.
That's interesting. They need to drop this trailer already.
Yep.
We've seen so many little hints of it. They really do need to drop this trailer. Just pointing out a few people there. Hi, Roxy. That's Jamie. Hi, Jamie. That's Jamie was on our quiz last night. So nice to have you on the show, and RMC's there as well. So hi guys, how you doing? Remember, just if you want your comments with a name attached to them, pop your name at the end because we don't always get.
Then Don Cheadle was interviewed about a couple things. The first one on his contract, especially when it comes to Secret Invasion and Armor Wars. He says, I'm done with my contracted years in the MCU, so now it's just like if something sounds fun and I'm presented with it, then yeah, let's go. I'm so glad that somebody got the assignment. Secret isn't the title. It's not Spoiler Invasion, it's Secret Invasion. This is a fun one because this sets up what happens in Armor Wars. In the trailer, you see that he's going to confront Nick Fury. He and Fury are going to go at it throughout this show. And as far as what they need to do, given what's happened on this planet at this point, it's kind of a thriller. It's a different kind of show than you usually see in the MCU.
On personal request, check your eyes.
Hey, sorry, stop. I don't know why that went off. Anyways,
That's great when that happens. You always sort of go, I didn't even say the word. Like, what's happened?
it's a kind of a thriller. It's a different kind of show than you usually see in the MCU, which is great that we continue to change it up and switch it up. It's a lot of fun. So it does seem that he's saying that Nick Fury and Rhodey are going back and forth. Maybe they don't trust each other. Maybe especially with Fury being gone off Earth and coming back, and we see him with Maria Hill, that maybe that Cheeto doesn't trust Nick Fury, or that Cheeto could possibly be a Skrull in this series.
One option is Old Harrington is
Stop it, Siri.
111 miles to your
Hey, Siri, stop.
fly.
This is great. This whole episode is just going to be Jarian arguing if he's. Anyway, back to the point. Yes, it does. That does sound great. RMC said that sounds great, and it does. You're right. It's interesting with Nick Fury coming back to Earth, isn't it? Because obviously a lot of the people that he was dealing with before he left Earth are all gone.
Yep.
So and obviously he knows Rhodey. He knows he's got a relationship with him. Is he kind of still? Does he think that he's a Skrull? Is he a Skrull? So that's going to be. I think actually them two as well will play off each other really nicely.
Mhm.
And then he also addressed about him being a Skrull as well, because he was asked about that. He says, at a very different place, in a way that is something I can't really talk about, but it's going to be very surprising to a lot of people. And the great thing is that there's going to be so much opportunity to learn about him, and for him to learn about himself, and for us, hopefully, to really be able to get behind what makes him tick. This almost sounds to me like Rhodey's been a Skrull the entire time in the MCU. I kept thinking Maria Hill. Maybe it's Rhodey.
And is this one of those ones where, in the books where they had the really deep sleeper cells where they didn't even know that they were Skrull?
Yep.
Is it going to be one of them?
I mean, they could take this all the way back to like 08, or to, they could even go all the way back to Iron Man 2 when Cheadle first stepped in.
Exactly.
That would be kind of funny.
Like something happened then where Terrence Howard's was the real Don Cheadle, or the real Rhodey, and then that he got taken and is a Skrull, and then they can kind of explain that switch too as well. But then when we'll see kind of Rhodey wake up like in the comic book arc where they crash land some there and they kind of meet each other up and like who's a Skrull, who's the real Rhodey type thing. That'll be very interesting. So they can pull some bits from the Secret Invasion arcs like that. Like maybe he's been in space somewhere and he crashes, comes down on Earth somewhere in a ship or gets back. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great. Yeah, and I tell you what, Don Cheadle he's going to be excellent at doing that. Oh,
It also makes you wonder too, that look that Rhodey and Carol give each other in the beginning of Endgame when they're in the holograms talking to Nat. That look they kind of gave each other. I wonder if Captain Marvel's been suspicious or knew that he's been a Skrull.
Mhm.
yeah.
And what's weird is Rhodey is like, he can't walk anymore either. So I wonder if that could all be a front, like one of those types of things where maybe somebody switched out with him, and I don't know.
Is he gonna do a Kaiser Sose at the end of this series? Just break off his splints and then just stroll down the road.
I was literally thinking of I think it was Wolverine and the X-Men, that cartoon where Professor X has like the things on his legs that make him walk, and he's literally like rolling around in a wheelchair and the building starts to fall down in one scene, and he just stands up and turns around and runs out. And I was like, dude, why didn't you do that in the beginning? Like,
Yeah, so question from the chat here. So where's the real Rhodey then? I have no idea. Like I said, he could be in space. They could pull some bits from the Secret Invasion arc where that ship does crash land and we see a handful of people that have been Skrulls the entire time in the MCU, and that we see the real people that were off in some kind of spaceship. Remember in Captain Marvel, they had that hidden ship off Earth that was cloaked. There could be another one of those out there where the real people are that the Skrulls have, that sleeper cell of Skrulls have taken over with. So,
because if I remember rightly, and I should remember rightly because I've read the main arc at least 4 times, when that ship lands and the other heroes get off, some of them are the real heroes and some of the Skrulls. It's almost like it's like a tactic, isn't it? That
Yep.
they've put Skrulls in with the humans to look like they're the ones that were taken. And yeah, that could be really cool. But yeah, I really like the idea of Rhodey being one of those deep sleeper cell Skrulls and not knowing that he was one, and then he's sort of questioning his own existence and his own, person.
I
Yeah.
don't know if you've seen. I think it's Earth's Mightiest Heroes, the cartoon. I think they do like a little scroll, like few episodes in
Yep,
that.
they do.
And like Nick Fury like doesn't know how to respond at first, so he goes to Tony Stark and he tells Tony Stark. So what does Tony Stark do? He like blows up the Avengers and goes straight to the news and is like, there are Skrulls, like da da da, and everybody's like, so do you still think Tony Stark is a Skrull? And he's like, no, it can't be him. Why would he just do what he just did if he's a Skrull? Like, he's not a Skrull. And it turns out it's like another member of the team is secretly a Skrull, and you
Yep.
just never know it. Like, and they've been there for a while, like training with them, a part
Yeah.
of the team, getting
Yep.
to know their weaknesses, like, getting to know them as people, like,
So they all get in a fight then too in the cartoon.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be great. I'm really looking forward to this series.
Comment here, good thinking with Captain Marvel getting Rhodey the Dirt Eye, which I kind of thought it was maybe they're gonna, because Captain Marvel and Rhodey have a relationship in the comics, right? They actually are together for a period in the comics, so I thought it was gonna lead into that. But now that I'm thinking back on them, it's like this, because she knew the whole test thing with Nick Fury when they were in the Captain Marvel movie. Maybe with her interactions with Rhodey in person, she becomes suspicious, and that's why she's kind of giving the dirt eye. I don't know. I'm just theorizing on that one.
And they both have a military background too.
Yep.
So similar kind of like way of life for them,
Don Cheadle also addressed Rhodey as an Iron Man replacement. I don't know. I mean, I think that Rhodey is his own dude. I don't think anyone could really step into this Tony Stark Iron Man shoes. I think he did that as well as anyone could ever do it. But I think we're going to learn a lot more about what Rhodey wants and who he is and what's his sort of place and the ferment of the MCU will ultimately be. I honestly don't know that much more than that, so.
Cool.
Captain America New World Order, Julius Ona on new challenges for Sam Wilson's Captain America. He's in a new position. Stepping up to be the leader as Captain America is going to be a new set of challenges for him. And this story, a big part of his journey is how do you define that leadership? That's the thing he hadn't had to deal with just yet. As the Falcon, he was always there supporting the rest of the team, but now he's the man leading the team, and I think that's going to be a really exciting journey to go on with him. So it does sound like that, and even earlier comments that Sam Wilson is going to be thrown to the ringer in this movie.
Yeah, he's really got to grow up, hasn't he? So I don't mean that in a, he's immature, but he's got to step into those leader shoes, hasn't he? And you saw him just starting to do that at the end of the Falcon Winter Soldier show, don't you? He had a big speech at the end.
Yep. Here's a good question about the Skrull piece in Armor Wars and Secret Invasion. Is Skrull physiology when passing as humans the same as humans? Would Rhodey's surgery post-Civil War show anatomical differences? That's a good question because I don't think they've addressed that in the MCU. I do remember the only surgery that we've seen on a Skrull in the MCU was an actual Skrull, and that was in Captain Marvel towards the beginning of the movie when they came to Earth and were trying to find the Lightspeed engine. So I don't know. In the comics, I believe that it was different, but I'm not sure how they're going to do it in the MCU.
I know they show those like few scenes in the Secret Invasion trailer too of like someone what looks like operating tables and stuff where they've like almost like kind of started poking around trying to figure out like how they operate and stuff.
Yep.
So, who knows? Maybe they address that in Secret Invasion.
Yeah, because I believe in the cartoon and the comics, Tony Stark did make some kind of detection device for Skrulls. And with him not being there, I wonder how that's going to be tackled in the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
I'd really like to see. There's that great scene, isn't there, at the beginning where they find out that Elektra is a Skrull, and the Skrull sitting there with Elektra's outfit on, but it's a Skrull. It's dead on the sort of table, and I'd love to see that kind of panning, screen. You just, maybe going up the feet of somebody, and then all of a sudden it turns out to be Rhodey, but as a Skrull or something. I don't know. Yeah, actually, that wouldn't look very good, would it? Because he'd just be in a suit, which would be a bit weird. But
it could be Natasha.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they brought Natasha's body back from Vormir and that she was a Skrull the whole time. And that means that they could basically bring her back into the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying. Someone's asking what movie is this? It's not a movie. 2 Disney Plus shows. One is Secret Invasion, and the other is Armor Wars. And from all the reports, is that Secret Invasion will lead into Armor Wars. Another comment here. I love Sam's character as Falcon and New Cap. He can take it. I'm super excited for this movie. Hope they do it in a Winter Soldier style way, which I believe they are. Everything it looks like they're doing it similar to that kind of production. Another thing on New World Order. So Marvel Studios is taking a new approach with Shira Haas Sabra in response to online backlash, because from her comics history and some things in the comics, and there's been all kinds of backlash of her being announced as being part of NWO. I'm not going to go too deep into it as a touchy subject. But their announcement was, while our characters and stories are inspired by the comics, they are always freshly imagined for the screen in today's audience. And the filmmakers are taking a new approach with the character Sabra, who was first introduced in the comics over 40 years ago. So that was their statement on that.
Okay.
I have a theory too about New World Order as well. I posted to the group, but I want to kind of flesh it out here too. So we know that the villain is the leader. We know we last saw him. He was experimenting on Hulk's blood and trying to replicate it and that kind of stuff. We also know that the Serpent Society was teased for. Was it Civil War? I think it was teased for.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was teased for Civil War. So what if they kind of brought in Serpent Society into New World Order by having the leader be experimenting with like reptiles and gamma tech, and that's how he ends up creating the Serpent Society. And we have serpent type Hulks, and that kind of leads into World War Hulk. Because I keep thinking that New World Order is some kind of government agency, like the Accords or GRC, or even they could possibly introduce the Committee and have Moon Knight in it. But what if New World Order is the leader trying to basically make a world of Hulks?
A gamma world.
Yeah, a gamma world of Hulks. And that's how they kind of, also fold in the Serpent Society, who they kind of jokingly teased in the past. So that's just my theory on that.
Yeah. I mean, if they were going to do any Hulk solo project, whether that be a Disney Plus show or a movie, it would be after that anyway, wouldn't it? So, that could potentially, like you say, lead into something maybe.
Yep. Mm-hmm. All right. Secret. Well, let me see. Comment here from real quick. I love it. I think it's a great lead into other stories. I mentioned one earlier. So yeah, here you go. Secret Wars news. There is a rumor going around that Ryan Coogler could be the potential director for Secret Wars, which I could see it. He's doing all the Black Panther Wakanda stuff. His company's doing Ironheart. I could see him also leading something like Secret Wars as well.
Mm-hmm.
So,
has he got the credentials to do it? I mean, obviously he's a great director, and he produces. He's directed a couple of great movies and that, but has he got the credentials with that kind of huge ensemble cast? I don't know.
I'll have to double check, but we know that Marvel has taken chances on directors and stuff before. So, it depends who they team with him for a writer also, or multiple writers. It depends on the team as well. So something to keep an eye on.
Yeah. No, totally. He's great guy, great director. And I'm not saying he wouldn't do a great job with Secret Wars. I mean, let's face it, Winter Soldier was great, granted, but you wouldn't have thought the Russos would have been able to do what they did with Infinity War and Endgame. And and they did. So, yeah.
Speaking of Avengers movies, King Dynasty. So we know that the director is Daniel Cretton, but they've added Jeff Loveness as the writer. His work on Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, has put him on the map to tackle the feature. So it looks like they're getting King Dynasty up as well, and it makes perfect sense to go from the Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania into King Dynasty by having that continuity, and even to see if they'll bring in the people from Loki over as well.
I've got to say, I'm kind of almost more excited for the Kang Dynasty than I am for Secret Wars at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's because it's sooner and there's kind of we can see that are leading into it, like Quantum Mania. We know that that's going to lead into it. But
it's
so
far out.
Yeah,
and with a name like Kang Dynasty, it almost makes me feel like I'm going to see a bunch of variants in it of Kang. That's where my brain goes instantly. So I'm really rooting for that.
Yeah, and excited to see more of Jonathan Majors. And if we can see more of him being 3 or 4 different people, then
I first watched him in Lovecraft Country, and they canceled that show after 1 season.
Mhm.
It's so sad because it was a fantastic show. I love that show. But yeah, like then when I saw him as He Who Remains, I was like, man, this is right up his alley because that's how Lovecraft Country was. It was kind of like supernatural, kind of like techie science fiction, kind of. So it was very cool.
nice.
And if it's multiple Kang variants, they could do that storyline where it becomes the one true Kang, where he has to go defeat all the other Kangs to be the one. So they could do a play on that as well. Comment here. Go ahead, Andy.
So 1 second, I read I'm gonna forget what it's called now. I've read a Kang story or I get a Kang run where basically what is it, Alex? Go on.
The recent one,
Yeah,
the one that came out in like 2021.
Yeah.
I think it might just be Kang the Conqueror. It
Yeah,
might
I think it's a self-titled one.
yeah,
Yeah.
but great how it kind of he goes on this whole journey trying to sort of close this loop or trying to change his life, and he realizes he just ends up back at the same point again. It was just brilliant. I love that kind of time travel stuff where it kind of sticks you a little bit. It's that predestination type thing, that kind of you just can't get out of this loop. It doesn't matter how hard you try, you are still this person. So yeah, great.
That's why I love that they put Loki in this TVA situation, because in like mythology, his character is like constantly stuck in loops. Like
Yep.
he can't break the cycle. So like him like going through season 1 only to almost break the cycle and end up right back at the very beginning in season 2. It is just so perfect for him and it fits with mythology. So
Love
But
that.
you know what I love to see on screen though is that Moon Knight annual where he has to go against Kang, and Kang's going back through all the different avatars of Moon Knight, and they kind of go the whole thing. I would love to see that play out on screen too, because that's actually a pretty cool Moon Knight issue if you haven't read it yet. It's one of the Moon Knight annual ones, if I remember correctly. Comments here, heard the same. He's supposed to be the top choice as of now. I was wondering what happened to the Russos leading it. I thought Kevin put the worries to bed after the ScarJo incident, and it doesn't feel like the Russos right now are interested. It kind of goes back and forth. There's something going on behind the scenes between Kevin Feige and the Russos, because they said they wanted to do it. He said he's welcomed them, but now it looks like we're going in a totally different direction. So we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. Another comment here. He has a menacing voice for Kang. I'm looking forward to Kang. And then another one here. I love the fact. I can't click today on this one. I love the fact that Kang already knows all the Avengers from fighting them so many times before, past and future Avengers, while they have no idea what he's capable of. And exactly the things he said with to Scott Lang, have I killed you before? Type thing. So interesting to see to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
Benedict Cumberbatch on Doctor Strange after Multiverse of Madness. It's closure really, and to do that, he's setting the timepiece free again. He's making it work so that it can carry on without him. He puts it in the box. He doesn't put it back on his wrist. He's no longer the broken-hearted Stephen Strange who didn't get the girl. He's a man who's moving on to a new time and adventure, which we definitely saw with him meeting with Clea in the post-credit scene, which, if you read the comics, that kind of stuff, she's basically the niece of
Dormammu.
Yeah, thank you, of Dormammu, and they end up together, and then she ends up, I think they're married at one point even, and she becomes the new Sorcerer Supreme in the death of Doctor Strange. So there's all kinds of history there, and like I continue to say, I think the third film is going to be Doctor Strange in a Dark Dimension.
I've got to catch up on the death of Doctor Strange. I say catch up on it. I've got to read it. I've not read it yet. The death of Doctor Strange. I've got to read that whole story.
I think they're all in Marvel Unlimited now. I know before they were kind of behind, but I think they're all there now.
You know what I'm like, though? I need a paper copy.
Yeah, I know.
It's called Only Myself Left to Conquer. The Kang.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
Kang the Conqueror, Only Myself Left to Conquer. And like I say, he goes through this kind of cycle. I've kind of ruined it, but he's great. He does. I think you can probably tell that from the beginning that that's what's going to happen. But it's just one of those ones where you're just like, oh, wow, he's back here again. Like he thinks he's changing his future, and it's not. It's just that's exactly what he should have been doing all the time. It just ends up at the same point. It's great, love it.
I didn't finish it. I don't remember how many issues it was, but I got to the part where you find out like Ravonna Renslayer is a Moon Knight. And that just like with Loki, like in the back of my mind with Ravonna, I was just like, whoa, just like a big, like spin my head around there.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
interesting too to see where she went at the end of season 1 of Loki and how they tie her into Kang going forward. So
yeah, I'd like to see more of her. I think they need to follow that up. That can't be a loose end for me. I really think that's important. That would be really interesting to see if, like with that, what Alex has just said there, that in that Only Myself Left to Conquer arc, that she was a Moon Knight, and if that how they can bring Moon Knight into our current Moon Knight, how they can bring him into this fold. Maybe they use that to bring him into this fold. I don't know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Some Thunderbolts news. Sam Rockwell will be delighted to join. He said, "Yeah, I'd be into that. Thunderbolt sounds cool. What villains would be in that?" So he's game for it, which I think they need to bring him back. They need a tech guy. You know, he could also possibly wear the Iron Patriot armor as a surrogate for Osborn. They need some more diversity on that team as far as what people can do.
I like what you just said there, though. What villains would be in that? So it's like, and I think we've said this before in the past, and I've certainly said it before in the past. I'd really like to see a movie from the villain's perspective, like really from the villain's perspective. The villains being the heroes in the movie, and actually fighting heroes would be really cool. And you're kind of almost rooting for the villains because they're the. In fact, I think Fred's listening actually, and he had a great comment a few weeks ago talking about antagonists and protagonists, and it doesn't necessarily mean that one's good and bad. It's just your protagonists are the main people that you're following, and the antagonists are the anti of that. That's not talking about good and bad, like morals or whether you're evil or not.
It's like the movie Brightburn. Like the kid Brandon Breyer is the protagonist, but he's, you know, not a good guy. He's not a good person in that film. So yeah, like I love that little, like, it's like they do that nice little script flip almost in movies where it's like they make you really like a really unlikable character.
Yeah,
Peacemaker.
Yeah, yeah.
Great ideas, Andy. I'd be all over that from your perspective from the comments.
Thank you, RMC. But was Peacemaker really that unlikable though? I mean,
I think after the Suicide Squad, he was, because he, you know, with the whole Rick Flag situation. Yeah. So I think after Suicide Squad, he was, and I think at the beginning of Peacemaker, he was. But by the season's end, he kind of flipped the script.
For me, when they said that they were giving him a show, I was like, why give him a show of all people from that movie? And his character isn't really anybody super, I think, important throughout like DC. I mean, all the way back to their original publisher. He's just been like, he was really popular like one time, like 40 years ago, but to give him a show now, it just seemed really odd. But yeah, I mean, it's awesome though. It's great. James Gunn did a great job.
Do you think he was, so John Cena was perfect for that character as well? The way that they wrote that character, like, I don't think, if you had a role for John Cena and say this is the best role you're ever going to get for you as an actor, that was it.
One of the greatest, I think, things I've ever seen John Cena do was get thrown around by like a little tiny woman in his underwear in that apartment in Peacemaker. That was one of the funniest things, getting thrown through walls and stuff like that. And he's like throwing stuff at her and he can't defend himself. And he literally sprays her in the eye with perfume. And it's like this big, massive man that like used to be a wrestler who can't beat this little tiny like person who's like taking him down. So awesome.
Yeah.
Coming here from the chat here. I hate his guts until Gun Show. And then another one was, I bet Eagly was a big factor in getting the show. Eagly was one of the best parts of that show too.
Yeah.
More on Thunderbolts. David Harbour teases drama and comedy. I mean, I think they're all difficult people who have many weaknesses. And as you may know, I certainly do. If you put a bunch of people with various weaknesses together, there's often drama and comedy. So I think you can expect both of those things. And then Hannah John came in, who plays Ghost, also had some comments about Thunderbolts. Well, she doesn't like to be touched, so that's going to be interesting. She's quiet socially. Well, she's not social. She grew up in the vat. So she never had human contact with anyone. It's going to be interesting for Ghost to connect. So,
didn't she build a little bit of a connection with Bill Foster?
She did.
An Ant-Man movie.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, we'll see Lawrence Fishburne again. That'd be kind of cool if he were to return.
Yeah, we'll get like a new Goliath, or what's the other one's name?
Atlas.
Atlas. Thank you. Maybe we'll see Atlas via Bill Foster.
I gotta admit, this is probably the first time I've been worried about an MCU project. I'm a little bit worried about this one, and I've got a feeling, and because they did it, didn't they, with Inhumans? They announced Inhumans. Inhumans was going to happen, wasn't it? Do you remember they had it up on one of their boards as well?
Yep, it was a movie. Yep.
Yeah, it was a movie, and all of a sudden it just disappeared, and nobody ever really spoke about it ever again. And I wonder whether they've put this out there now. The cast and these people. I mean, like I say, personally, I'm not convinced on this one. But even more so, a bit of drama, a bit of comedy. I can just see it's just going to be these kind of all these guys like just telling bad jokes.
I almost feel like it's going to be like this team with a lot of super soldiers on it fighting another super soldier like threat. I mean, that's where I feel like it's almost going again. And we kind of just got that in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier kind of. So I wonder if it'll kind of be like a sideways kind of offshoot of that.
And hopefully they'll close that loop with Ursa Major. They'll give them a Hulk-like person on the team. Maybe they'll recruit others. We'll see. But from the comments here, I'm trying to give it a fair shake. I have my doubts about the movie, but hopefully that'll go away. And then another one here says, not going to be the Thunderbolts we're used to. So yeah. Moving on to other news here. The Marvels, Nia DaCosta on movie status. It was amazing. I've been working on this movie for 2 years now, and I'm in post right now. We are doing reshoots in January, and it's been so insular, the experience, just like trying to make it as good as possible, and then come out for a second and get a breath of fresh air. People's enthusiasm and excitement, it really reminds me why we kind of did this in the first place. It's really awesome. So it was amazing. Another comment here on the Thunderbolts real quick. I'm concerned that they're trying to start Thunderbolts without Zemo, but I'm excited as JLD as Valentina. Yep, and maybe they'll close that loop, but maybe she could be the special buyer from Quantumania or Ant-Man the Wasp, or maybe it was a Kang variant as a special buyer. Who knows? We'll have to see. Mr. Glyphon, someone else, I don't know. But back on the Marvels, Tiana Paris, who plays Monica Rambeau, she talked about her powers. Being able to fully realize Monica's powers and flying, so she'll be flying in the movie. And it's like, oh my gosh, we have a black female superhero on the screen with these other amazing female superheroes. So it's just like, oh, woman power and being led by an amazing woman. So yeah, that was my favorite part, girl power. So, Blade, Work by Night. There was a rumor that's been going around that Mahershala Ali was going to appear. But there's a scheduling conflict issue. So something to keep an eye on if we do see Blade show up in Work by Night or not. But it sounds like he wasn't the plans, but there's some kind of scheduling issue. So we'll have to look on that one.
Speaking of vampires and Werewolf by Night, Alex come up with a good point the other day, didn't you, Alex?
Oh, yeah, about the TVA thing? Yeah, so that was actually on somebody else's post. Me and Roxy were talking, and Roxy pointed that out about the TVA, and I didn't catch that in the trailer. And I was thinking about it the other day, and I thought back to that line from Loki where Mobius is like, we brought in Kree, Titans, vampires, and I was like, man, what if that actually is the TVA in this trailer? Like that would be absolutely wild if it was. And it would just be one of those things where Marvel could connect two things that seem like they have no connection whatsoever.
Yeah. And I don't think they have to play on it too much, do they? They could just do that, and then almost like, by the looks of Werewolf by Night, it's going to be quite crazy anyway. So it could just be a throwaway thing. And I mean, let's face it, if you're going to be watching Werewolf by Night, you probably would have watched pretty much everything by Marvel at this point. So kind of who those people are. So yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
And I think I was just gonna say one more thing, and I think their outfits look a little bit different, but I think like if you're going in and you're gonna fight vampires and werewolves, werewolves are like wild animals, you might want to pad up and look a little bit different.
Specialist unit.
Yeah, exactly.
Or it could also be too that it's in further in the past, so it could be a different TVA, different uniforms, that kind of stuff too as well.
That's true. That could also be the new TVA. That's the second TVA that we see under Kang now.
Yep.
We saw the end of Loki, so their outfits could be different.
Yep. From the comments here, cool post in the group about that Werewolf by Night, Alex. So, and then someone goes good eye to Roxy as well on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of that side of Marvel, Kit Harington wants to return to MCU soon. I don't know how much they're planning, and I hope to be involved in future stuff with that character, with Dane Whitman. and that he might go on and be the thing that everyone quotes at me in the streets. But I honestly don't know. I don't know what their plans are. I know they're going. I know they're going into kind of a phase 5, which will be interesting if they can't get Blade to show up in Werewolf by Night. What if we see Kit Harington show up as the Black Knight? Or like he's a surrogate saying, "Hey, I'm here for me. I have a friend of mine. We're putting a team together," type thing, and he's like there for Blade.
I can't imagine anybody calling him Dane Whitman over calling him Jon Snow, though. if I'm honest.
I still haven't watched that show.
That's fine. That's fine. I've not watched Breaking Bad, so it's all good.
Yeah, go ahead, Andy.
No, go on.
Wakanda Forever. Winston Duke talked about M'Baku. He said M'Baku is forced to catch up with the times. His role is changed. He survived the snap, so he was not snapped. He's now part of the tribal council, so he's more forward-facing and less insular. So he's being forced to be really part of the collective transparency. I think that's really a cool thing for him, and you get to see a whole new dynamic, including him. He also talked about on the Marvel's villains labeling. He says, this probably has to do with Namor. I guarantee this probably has to do with Namor. I never think of Marvel villains as villains. They're all so complex that I just call them antagonists. They just want different stuff. They'll go head to head with our heroes to get what they want, and Marvel does such a good job of making their antagonists so playable and worthy of redemption. And M'Baku understands the complexity of the situation. In that way, his mind is always open. It's always working. I'm really excited for people to see the complexity side in this movie. Because remember, at first, he was kind of seen as a villain in Wakanda. He was, the bad part of Wakanda in the first part of Black Panther. And to see his arc, but I think he's more referring to Namor and Namor's arc in this film. So
yeah, no, there you go. That's exactly what I was saying earlier, wasn't it? Like, they're not. How many people have we had that have been truly evil as a villain in the MCU? Not many. You could probably put them on one hand, but yeah, no, I agree with him. He's absolutely right. They've got a good way of. But then, having said that, is it a good way? Do we need a really bad villain? Somebody we can just hate? Because even Thanos, for God's sake, wasn't hated.
Thanos is right.
Well,
I mean, I think it's one of those things where it's like you build a stronger villain when you make them almost like a sympathetic villain. Yep. Like when you make it like a lot of people like Thanos, because a lot of people like to argue about the snap, like whether, which way do you think it's better this way, better that way? But like at the end of the day, like Thanos thought he was doing something right for the universe. Therefore, like he's the hero in his own story, the villain in somebody else's, like,
Yeah.
So.
No, I find that really interesting, that kind of, that whole villain thing. So I'm glad that that's a real thing within the actors and, Marvel, the way that they look at it as well. But I would like to see somebody who you just don't like. There's, as you guys know, I'm a sort of big Walking Dead fan. There's been a few characters in that who you just don't like. You just like, I hate you. I actually hate you, which is great. That's what you want, isn't it? You want those kind of emotions when you're watching something. So yeah, I'd be up for a really evil, hateable villain that's just not redeemable at all.
mm-hmm.
Jim Starlin did talk about Pip and Star Fox in the MCU. He said Pip will be the comic relief. He's also a teleporter, and that brings in all sorts of possibility. But then he talked about Star Fox / Eros. He said Eros, on the other hand, he's an interesting one. I have no idea what they're going to do with him. I sort of left him a sociopath, and he's sort of a sexual predator. So I'll be curious to see how the MCU Eros fares up against the other one, especially in this day and age. So that's always a tricky one. And there's, like you said, he's kind of got some stuff in the comics there. So
I think you could probably make him a bit of a player, without,
going too deep.
Yeah, that's it. Is that really necessary to go into that stuff? Probably not. They can insinuate what his sort of tendencies are like without kind of making it any inaccessible to certain audiences.
Mm-hmm.
And then Ironheart news: Rashida Sheeds Olewala, I'm sorry about the last name there, joins the cast. Deadpool will film in Vancouver under Richmond Street Productions.
Hmm.
There's also some news there too because Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively are expecting another child too as well. So when we talk about some different date shifting, that could be Daredevil, or I'm sorry, Deadpool also.
No one.
Oh, here's a good comment here. When it comes to Star Fox and Namor, they'll probably avoid that with him and Namor both. Yeah, because Namor kind of, he's eyes for Sue Storm, and they don't hide that in the comics or the cartoons. Daredevil. Charlie Cox on wanting more lawyering. We know there's going to be 18 episodes, and that's kind of mind blowing to me. So there's even more content than we're doing before, which at the time felt like a lot. What I hope this does is give us longer to really live in characters. And spend more time in Matt Murdock's world as a lawyer instead of all the cool Daredevil superhero stuff, but to really live in this world and ground the show in the day-to-day life as someone who's a lawyer. I think it'd be really interesting. He also go ahead.
No.
Oh, let's just say something. He also made comments on his new suit. I got to go to LA to go to a fitting. I walk in and the suit's hanging there, but then there's a drawing on the wall and it has a gold and red. And I was like, no way. It's funny because when you play the character this long, you're emotionally connected to fans' response. So you see something like that and it means something to you, but you know what it means, what it's going to mean. You have to start a sense of how people are going to respond to that. So, and we saw a glimpse of his possible new suit in this week's episode of She-Hulk.
We did, yeah. It's interesting what you said there about when you've played a character for this long, you get a sense of what fans want. But in regards to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, he's not played this character at all yet.
Just No Way Home, yeah.
Yeah, so okay, sorry, yeah. So in No Way Home, so it's interesting, isn't it? Like obviously he's got this deep connection with this character, and there's probably going to be, well, actually, there definitely is going to be Marvel fans, MCU fans that have never seen him before. Yep. They're going to be seeing him for the first time. Obviously, us older fans and people that have watched the Netflix stuff know that he's been around for a long time as this character. So yeah, interesting situation that he finds himself in. Like again, really is born again, isn't it? I know it sounds like a bit cheesy, but it is true.
Mm-hmm.
I won't say it. Anyways, other news, Disney heading for a major merger with Hulu. I do believe that we have full ownership of Hulu to integrate with Disney Plus, and we would love to get to the end point earlier. And this is from CEO Bob Chapek. He told investors earlier this week, if we can get there, I'd be more than happy to try and facilitate that. That's interesting comments because there's always that rumors of the new platform earlier, all that kind of stuff. That Disney stuff is being pulled from. Disney Plus on Hulu is not continuing. They're not doing a new season, so something to keep an eye on. Marvel Studios delays untitled film. There's an untitled film scheduled to release on February 16th, 2024. It has been moved back a few months into September 6th, 2024, and speculation is Deadpool 3. Again, it was just announced recently that Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively are expecting another child, so that most likely is going to be Deadpool 3 being delayed. Speaking of movie dates, there are 4 dates confirmed after Secret Wars. So it looks like we do have the start of Phase 7 coming. February 13th, 2026, May 1st, 2026, July 24th, 2026, and November 6th, 2026.
So 4 movies in 2026.
Yep. Here comes the Mutants saga. We'll see. Spider-Man. Disney Plus has announced that both seasons of the Spectacular Spider-Man will be on October 19th. Speaking of Spider-Man, we have Sony news. You're going to love this. Movie delays. Kraven the Hunter is now releasing on October 6th, 2023. A few months away from its initial January 13th release the same year. It did take over Madam Web's original release, which is now scheduled for 2024, February 16th. Both films are set to also screen in IMAX. The delay has also affected one of its untitled Marvel films, which we were initially planned for June 7th, 2025, but is now a July release. Someone theorized this might be the next Spider-Man MCU entry. Someone goes in the comments, just cancel Kraven, please. Honestly, I don't know what Sony's doing. I finally watched Morbius on, was it Friday or yesterday? I finally watched Morbius. I fell asleep during Morbius.
Wow.
So I missed like a good third of the film. My wife tried to even stay watch it, and she's like, no, I couldn't do it. But the interesting thing was for Morbius was the post-credit scene, because it does look like at the end of the movie, the same purple we saw in No Way Home is what brought Adrian Toomes over to Morbius's universe, whatever one that is. Then you see Morbius and Vulture, Adrian Toomes meet up at the in the other post-credit scene, like they're forming a team. So I almost wonder if this other movie date is they're trying to build some Sinister Six, but it makes no sense that the purple portal stuff that they did in No Way Home brought Toomes over to Morbius's world. Shouldn't have been the other way around and brought him back. If he got put over there, shouldn't have brought him back. I don't know. I have no clue what's going on with Sony. It seemed like a dumpster fire. Nothing's not interesting. Morbius was completely boring for me. I do love Jared Leto. I thought he did very well in the movie. It was just, I don't know, I fell asleep. Commentary, Morbius was still better than Thor 4, which I disagree with that one. I can watch Thor 4, Love and Thunder again and again. The visuals were there. You know, there's good stuff in that film. You know, it's not everyone's cup of tea though. But Morbius, I don't fall asleep in these kind of films. I fall asleep. That says a lot for me.
Yeah, I what you said there about Sony stuff being a dumpster fire. It is, isn't it? You just that comment that just cancel Craven, please. Like, I was literally thinking that as you were saying it. I was like, just cancel it all. Just stop, please. Just stop.
Just get it all back to Marvel
Yeah,
Studios.
just
And that Madam Web show, I mean, I don't even know what to think about that, you know?
I don't either. I know we had a lot of news today. I'm almost done with Light in the Tunnel. Sorry about the lot of news today, but there's been a lot this past week. New Mutants will release on Disney Plus in the US on October 14th. Shang-Chi, there's a rumor that February 14th, 2025 could be the release date for the sequel to Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Fantastic Four news. According to a rumor from trusted sources, the subreddit has said that Marvel Studios is no longer considering John Krasinski to play the MCU's Reed Richards in Fantastic Four, despite appearing as a now-deceased variant on Earth A38 in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. Hopefully that's true, because I want to see somebody else play that role. Nothing against Krasinski, I just want to see someone else play that role. Fan service is done, move on.
yeah.
Comment real quick here. Disney should just buy Sony before Hulu, yeah. Yeah, leave Hulu where it's at, buy Sony instead.
Yeah, Hulu's not really doing anything, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, who cares? Yeah.
Here's a big rumor that I'm excited for, because this really helped me connect with my daughter on MCU. There is a rumor that Miss Marvel Season 2 has been greenlit. I'm excited for that. And hopefully, if they are doing a second season, we get Lockjaw. I don't care, he's not inhuman. Make him a cosmic being. Make someone they come across during the Marvels movie. Bring Lockjaw in. I know the directors have said it. The writers have said it. Iman Vellani has said it. Give us Lockjaw as well, and that will be perfect way to do that season for season 2. Last bit of news. It looks like the multiverse saga has Infinity Stones. There's a rumor going around. Is that artifacts, and we talked about this before as well. Artifacts like the 10 rings and the bangle from Miss Marvel are them. What else will show up as multiverse saga Infinity Stones?
No, so you mean you sorry, I misunderstood what you meant for a minute there, but I now know what you mean. You mean like items that are that sort of bind the saga together and are important throughout the saga, right? I was sitting there thinking, which right.
So it
How
makes you
many of
wonder.
them?
It doesn't say. It just said that the 10 rings and the bangles are the artifacts that are part of them. So it makes you wonder what Kang is looking for that he wants Scott to steal in Quantum Mania is basically Thanos' gauntlet equivalent in the multiverse saga, possibly. I wonder if that could be that main piece to tie them all together. And there's other ones out there we haven't come across yet.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if the beacon, they're sending out the signal that they spoke about at the end of Shang-Chi, whether that ties these items together as well.
I wonder if Scott Lang could be trying to steal another one of these artifacts.
Yeah.
You know, like that could very well be possible.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Because the one that Kang actually wants is like the main piece, the glue that ties them all together, like the gauntlet that Thanos had. Is that Thanos' gauntlet for Kang, basically? That artifact that he's trying to steal back.
That'd be interesting.
Yep, lots of news today. Took a lot of time. Sorry about that, but we are done. So let's talk about episode 5.
Ooh, episode 5 of She-Hulk. Do you know what? In a way, it was similar to episode 4, but I thought it was better. It was better. It was done better. Does that make sense? Like there's
Yeah.
not a great deal happened, but it was I just found it funnier. I don't quite know why. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah, I love the guy that was the costume designer. That guy was a hilarious character. I thought all his scenes were great. And I love how they casually just slid that like Daredevil box with his
Yeah.
mask into that one scene. Like that was pretty smooth. I like that. And I don't know why, but like I laughed kind of hard about the Iron Man shoes, you know,
Iron
about
Man
the guy.
3s?
Yeah. He's like, he's like, can you come stand in line with me? Like, I need to get 2 pair. Why do you need 2 pair? Well, one, for me and one to put in storage. Like, that's a very real thing. Like, a lot of people understand that,
Yeah. What did he actually say though? It was it one to rock, one to box, or something like that?
Yeah.
Something like
Yep.
that,
And I was
Yep.
like, that's brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah. But I also feel like that Avengers stuff and the Avengers stuff was almost just like that way Disney and Marvel could be like, all right, like we own that now too. Like the actual name for that, like it's in our shows now. So anybody who puts Avengers and Avengers, like that's infringement.
Well, they had social media accounts too as well that were updated for that also, and so it was nice to see that. But also too, speaking of like the lawyering stuff, it seems like we're doing what Charlie Cox was saying about Matt Murdock. We're seeing more lawyering in She-Hulk, which is the core of She-Hulk. So it's good they're sticking to the theme. And you're right, the Drip Broker was great. We basically have our MCU Edna Mode from The Incredibles, basically. But also too, this further leads to Murdoch being reborn in the MCU, that he has a new costume person different from what he had in the Netflix series as well.
Yeah.
So,
And it looks like he is going to come to LA, because we were speaking in the last episode, weren't it, about where do they meet? Is she going to go to New York, or is he going to come to LA? And it looks like he's coming over to LA to pick up his new suit from somebody. So that'd be cool to see. When's he going to pick it up? Go on, go for that comment.
oh yeah, so agreed. Better episode. The show isn't what I thought it would be, but I do like it anyway. It's lighthearted for the most part. Coming of age thing for her. She'll definitely be utilized in the future. Honestly, they do really well with all the shows, considering a show's budget versus movie budget, which is spot on. And then also on the shoe thing, someone else says, my hubby is a shoe guy who buys dupes. So yeah, and then he knows the game, LOL, which I'm not sure what this one might be in reference to. Maybe the Murdoch stuff or something else. I'm not sure.
Maybe.
Or the hubby comment maybe about the shoes.
Oh,
maybe.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that I haven't seen. Jen seems to have kind of lost her ability to to be a lawyer. She was sort of a good lawyer at the beginning, and when we saw her before, not even before the She-Hulk stuff, but she seemed more confident in her lawyering, and now she's kind of a bit distracted, I think, and doesn't.
I think maybe it's because she's having to I think she's still having that inner turmoil of being a superhero versus a lawyer. I think there's still some inner strife with that. Also, too, where she has to actually be She-Hulk all the time in court and in the office. That could be also weighing her mind. But it does seem that since we had the Wrecking Crew try to show up and attack her, that she's more embracing She-Hulk more and more as the series goes on.
I'd like to see him flesh that out, actually, Jari, and that inner turmoil, that kind of fight between, do I stay as Jen, especially after seeing this episode, the guy that she sort of had the longer date with.
Yeah.
And she said, would you be interested in this person? And he was like, nah, not really. And you could see it. She was kind of a little bit upset about that. So I'd like to see that be fleshed out a little bit more, and it just not be passing moments in the shows.
Yeah. Well, the next moment as well, we kind of dipped was like, who are you type of thing, and just the way he was the next morning. So yeah, definitely. I'm sure that weighs on her.
I thought one of the most interesting things in this episode was she's doing the whole court issue thing over her name, She-Hulk. And then we see all these different kinds of shoes in the credits with all these that are like totally references to other characters. And there were a lot of references in there to other characters.
Yeah, I have a list here. So Wolverine, Doctor Strange, Ghost Rider, the Falcon, Nova, Hulk, Namor, Hawkeye, Captain Marvel, Spider-Man, Moon Knight, The Vision, The Thing, Cyclops, Black Panther, Cable, Captain America, Deadpool, Quicksilver, and Thor, and plus he's holding the Iron Man 3s. Those are the ones that can be made out. There's a Deadpool. Did I say Deadpool as well? Yeah, Deadpool's in there. So there's all kinds of references in there. for the shoes. And it was funny too because they speculated the Thing would possibly be in the series. Well, there's your Thing right there. I don't think we're gonna actually see him, but there's a reference to him right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's funny because obviously there was no post-credit scene, was there?
Nope.
There was
That
no.
was surprising.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they kind of, yeah, the Daredevil helmet and suit was kind of, it wasn't a post-credit scene, was it? But that was along the line. I mean, it could have been a post-credit scene.
Yes, it could have been.
They would have put if that was the post-credit scene, you would have been like, yeah, that's what a post-credit scene is, isn't it? And then you obviously had the shoes, which are now. Has anybody gone back to see the other drawings in the credits from the other episodes to see if there's anything as interesting as that?
Yeah, I don't think so far I've seen anything. So I'm always watching those and I'm always looking to see what I can find out. But I'll go back and double check.
Yeah. I was saying yesterday when we was on our quiz, like, did anybody just sit there watch it and just sort of realize by the time normal credits come on that we hadn't actually seen a post-credit scene? I was sort of going, where's the post-credit scene gone? I was watching these black credits roll and I was like, what's happened? Where's it gone? So then it sort of rolled back and then I saw the shoes. So yeah.
So here you go. The shoe art was the post-credit scene for this
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
Also, too, what was interesting about this episode is that the Mallory book, the one who defended her in this episode, she's also in the comics too as well. And they're not friends in the series. They're not friends in the comics either. So there's some callback there as well. The QR code is She-Hulk number 10 featuring Titania. Titania is actually on the cover. So that's the QR code. And then I thought one more thing, I'm not sure if you guys saw this too, is that we actually saw Leapfrog in this episode.
Oh, really?
So when they're walking out of the elevator, you see the actor who's going to be Leapfrog walking into the elevator. He's actually carrying the Leapfrog suit. He was visiting Pug just before they showed up. So we'll probably see him possibly next week because he now has his costume, and that was the actor playing him at a costume. So
Okay, let's check that out. I missed that completely.
yeah.
I wonder what. So obviously she wanted to pick up some suits, and then the extra thing that he gave her was probably her super suit as such.
Yep.
You know, that was the thing that she quite liked. That was going to go underneath her actual suit, I guess, a bit sort of Superman-esque. You know, she sort of rips out of her clothing and then still got her super suit on underneath.
Which also makes you wonder too is how they're going to play her into the Avengers. How's she going to join the Avengers? Because they keep teasing her as an Avenger, but she's not one yet, and they keep kind of playing, bringing that up. You know, is it going to be through Wong? Is it going to be through her cousin? Is something else going to happen to bring her in, or is she not really going to be an Avenger, but more of a street level type person, like the Defenders, like Daredevil and that kind of stuff?
What if Hulk goes off and does Sakaar things and he's gone for a while, and at some point they're like, we need a Hulk, and they just go pull her in, and yeah.
Yeah, I think it'd be through Wong.
And here I think his comment is referencing to Leapfrog. He showed up sooner than we thought he would, or possibly Daredevil. And then when they were having dinner with her family, and one of the family members mentioned about making clothes for her, so I thought that's where she would get her stretchy purple suit. Same as well. I thought it would be also.
You know me, I like a good little bit of music or a good sound. The little bit of music that played when they showed Daredevil's helmet was cool.
Mm-hmm.
I went back and listened to that 2 or 3 times. That sounded really cool. So I'm sort of wondering whether that was
A hint at the intro almost.
yeah. Yes, that's what I was trying to get at. Yeah, I wonder whether that was a hint at that sort of style of music that they're going to use in Born Again. But
That would be cool.
Possibly.
it would, because I really like that. I really like that little snippet of music that we heard there, and it sounded aggressive but fun, but cool. Do you know what I mean? It had some really good tones about it. So and I like that kind of stuff. So
I really like that kind of stuff now that they did that in Miss Marvel, where when they said the word mutant, they played the X-Men theme.
Yep.
Like, I just thought that was so great. So like,
yeah, I think it's just another sense, isn't it? It's another way of attacking our senses to remind us that there's this whole sort of world out there, and they do that. They've done that very, very often with the ensemble casts, where they have, in the Avengers movies, when Captain America comes in, it's his music. When Thor's in, it's his music. When Captain Marvel comes into Endgame, you hear her music, and I really like that. And I like the way you hear the music, but it's still within the style of that movie and of that moment at that time. You know, and it's kind of what we said about the actor and the character being in that show as well. There is that character played by that actor, but they are within the style, and you know, you're in my house. This is what we do here. You know, so I quite like that, and that's what I was saying about Daredevil himself showing up in this show.
So coming here about the Avengers piece, she'll be a big part of the West Coast Avengers, don't you think? Which she could be, but they haven't really set anything up as far as West Coast Avengers in the MCU yet. So she could be something to keep an eye on. Also be to see if someone else does recruit her at the end of the series. Because what is it, 11 episodes? Right?
9.
9. So we have 4 more to go then.
4.
So
yeah. The West Coast thing, somebody else brought it up before, didn't they? Saying that I wonder whether that's where this show would leave us with a West Coast Avengers team, maybe.
We've got quite a few characters in the MCU right now that are West Coast Avengers. Moon Knight was one.
Ant-Man.
Vision was one. So wasn't White Vision one? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Was Ant-Man one or not? No, it wasn't. No.
I mean, they could build that team if they really wanted to. In the absence of the Avengers, it would be kind of a interesting little place to build, especially with Thunderbolts coming up. It seems like Thunderbolts is kind of like one of those teams of them putting together a bunch of random people and trying to build another team.
Oh yeah,
this is a good comment too. Definitely mean down the road she'll likely link up with the Fantastic Four, I would think. Yeah, because she's a big part of that. She has a lot of interactions with the Thing too as well. So she's all in those comic books with the Fantastic Four. She was
one of them, wasn't she, when they left to go
and
do something? She sort of stepped in, didn't she, with Ant-Man, funnily enough.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's where it was from, not West Coast Avengers. It was Fantastic Four, thank you.
Yeah. They linked it. There was who was there? There was her, there was Ant-Man, there was who else?
Spider-Man, is it?
It might have been.
He's been in some other stuff where it's like Fantastic Four and Spider-Man and stuff.
But, and then somebody else, but they left 4 of them as the Fantastic Four when they went off on a journey, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
And then another comment here, I expect Young Avengers first, which we could get it because we have a lot of people out there for Young Avengers, and we could even see Kate Bishop at the end recruiting her to a Young Avengers team.
She's too old, isn't she?
Is she though? She could kind of be like I don't know. She's young in her superhero type life, so I don't know.
Yeah, we've gotten so many Young Avengers in these shows. We've gotten so many characters, like even down to Kid Loki in the Loki show.
They're all there, aren't they? They're all there.
Yeah.
The only one we haven't seen is Iron Patriot. Yeah.
Oh.
Yep.
Bradley.
Iron Lad.
Iron Lad.
Yeah, because I said we saw Patriot.
Yeah, sorry.
He was teased in Falcon.
Yeah, sorry, my wires got crossed. Yeah, Iron Lad. We haven't seen Iron.
And will we get Iron Lad? Will there be an Iron Lad, or are they going to say Riri is the surrogate for Iron Lad in the MCU?
Yeah, potentially.
So,
but no, it was a good episode. I quite enjoyed this episode. I think the last one felt like completely nonsensical filler, really, where this one was a little bit better, in my opinion. Just an all-round episode.
Here, Kate could be a mentor. She's young but older than most of the others. Yep.
Yeah. True.
I missed one comment here. That I'm going to circle back to Miss Marvel related comment. If I can click on it. I really like Miss Marvel. I think it's super cool you got to connect with your daughter through that show. Thank you, and I'm hoping that continues with the season 2. I'm also hoping that continues when Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur comes out as well. So
and that was a point that was made last night actually on the quiz during some small talk, was about the A-Force team that got together in the Endgame, and everyone was like, "Oh, that was really false." Even I was one of those people. I was like, "Oh, that was terrible," and it was false. Of course, it was false, but I was like, "Oh, that was awful." You know, that was really cringy. But then when I spoke to somebody else, and I don't know whether it was somebody on the group, it might have been somebody completely different. They said, "Oh, you know, my daughters absolutely loved that moment, and now they want me to buy comics. They're going back to watch other older Marvel movies, and they're asking me questions." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, actually, in that respect, it's really done its job, hasn't it? It's appealed to a different audience. Like that scene wasn't there for me Well, no wonder I didn't particularly, I wasn't bothered about it. It was there for them, and that's great. So like we said, if those shows can bring new audiences in
Excuse me.
and they can help people bond over a common thing that we all love, then great.
Definitely.
That's exactly what it's for. Completely agree.
Exactly.
Not to go back to Moon Girl, but when does that come out? Moon Girl and Devil,
I think it's next year sometime. It's not going to be on Disney Plus. It's just going to be regular Disney, I believe.
Okay.
The Disney Channel on the network. So, yeah. But you have like Lawrence Fishburne's in it. He's voicing the Beyonder, I believe.
That's cool.
You have a couple of characters that have been in the MC who are voicing characters in that one. I can't remember the rest of them, but I know Lawrence Fishburne is doing the Beyonder.
Mhm.
Nice. I think we've covered everything, don't you? Superb. Well, it's been another good show. Loads of good news, loads of good discussion, actually. Loads of varied discussion. The news was good. It was good news. There might have been a lot of it, but it was good news this week. Opened up a lot of doors to a lot of different discussions. And yeah, we as we said the other week, we can talk about these She-Hulk shows. There is 9 shows. They're only 25 minutes long. We're not going to drag it out if we don't necessarily need to, but I think we've spoken about everything that we wanted to, got some good points across, and had some good chat with the guys that have been with us live. So it's been another good episode, guys. Have a good week. We'll be back next week for episode 6 of She-Hulk and any pressing news of the week. Thank you, Jamie, for listening in. Hopefully you enjoyed it. It was your first time. Thank you, Roxy, RMC. Fred was there as well at certain points. So, yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. Alex, Joan, it's been a pleasure. Take care.
Wait 1 second. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, feedback where you consume this after we put it out there on the podcast side of things. Also, to Twitter people, I know that we're getting all kinds of upticks in views. We're not ignoring you. We just can't see the comments, and at some point we'll start monitoring those. If you do want to be interactive, just move over to Facebook or Twitch or YouTube where we can see the comments and fully interact.
Superb.
Now we can go.
Now we can go. I must remember that every week. All right. Take care, guys. See you soon.
Bye.
Why don't you tell them about the time we faced